Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast UX Design to Win in Business. My name is Nils, co-founder at Dinghy. We do everything to help you succeed with your website or digital product. And today we're going to talk about content management. And for this exciting topic, I know it sounds boring, but it's going to be exciting. I brought my co-founder, Daniel. Dan, welcome back to the show. Say hi to everyone.
Hey, hello. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to talk about content management systems as it's something that we are working on right now all the time, and it's an evolving space and a lot of things are happening.
It's crazy. I think it's so we kind of picked this to be our October focus topic, and to talk about this with you here on the show is, I think, the best setup that I can think about, because this is something that is really, I think, dear to our hearts. Like, we've been building websites since what, 10 years now? I don't know, long.
Yeah, for a long time.
Right? And we both probably started out with different things long before we knew each other even. And the web just changed over the last years, not only once, I think actually multiple times, since we are being web professionals and working in the space. And as it happens, I mean, we can even maybe lead in with the little hot topic at the moment that we actually didn't plan for. So a very popular content management system called WordPress. You might have heard of it, even as someone who's not in charge of actually working on their website. But so let's just say, I think half of the internet uses WordPress in numbers. Is that right? Around this? I heard this the last week
Yeah, I
somewhere.
think it's crazy high numbers of pages that use content management systems use WordPress. Very
Yeah.
popular.
So WordPress came from, I think, when blogs became a thing, right? Like, that's its origin, hence the name also. But it still turned into a vastly popular content management system over the years, and got extended through plugins to even have e-commerce capabilities, and not only manage the content of a blog, but of entire websites in multiple languages, and has probably the biggest ecosystem of plugins of all systems out there, I would say, right? Um, and without going into too much detail, the WordPress is an open source system, but just over the last weeks, we could see how personal relationships between organizations can even affect open source software. Maybe let's put it that way. It's a money thing after all, I would say. I don't know, Dan, how do you feel about this thing going on right now?
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see from the outside. So we're not hosting any WordPress pages right now. So that's good for us. I think generally nothing much changed about the content management system in the previous weeks, but what happens is that there was some big hoster for WordPress sites, and the organizations taking care of WordPress as non-profit or for-profit organizations. And I think it shows that one, open source is, especially if it's a big project like WordPress, it's not super easy to just fork whatever is there and keep going with the open source software. There is a lot of effort into building WordPress, keeping it up to date, making it secure, and you need a team for that on that scale. So it's not very easy to just fork and go do it with a different team. And on the other hand, we see this relationship between the users of WordPress and the software, and the trust that is required for this to work or strive. And I think the trust issue is the biggest thing right now, because people are learning that the organization they used to trust might not be as stable as they would have liked it to be, for it being the place where their content lives or their website lives. Like, it's WordPress is at the very core. It's very intertwined with the front end and the back end and the database. And if you have everything running in the system and something is shaking the system, then you might be afraid of what happens next. And I think this is the place where we're in right now, that many people look at it and are like, oh, can I trust this to be stable for the foreseeable future, for the next 10 years? Something that wasn't even a question couple months ago. Like it was basically the safest option you could choose
And I
in terms
think
of
therefore
longevity.
so popular, right? Like that it's for free because it's an open source project and that you can put it on your own servers or that you can pay someone like a hosting platform for WordPress websites to do it for you, and that it's been around forever and it still exists and is still very popular. I think all of this, I think, is the absolute selling point for why people choose WordPress as a solution for their next websites, and that includes businesses or organizations that do that for themselves. That includes agencies like us. Like there's entire agencies that just build WordPress websites as professionals. And so where we're going with this is that there are, of course, many solutions out there, and that one inherent problem to content management from our perspective is that getting together all of your content for your organization to present in a meaningful way for your customers is, as you know, a huge amount of work, of course. Like it's one of the most straining things, I would say, in running your entire marketing. And so to have all of your content in a format that is specific for one platform is, we think, a dangerous path to follow. And we're just mentioning WordPress because this never happened. Like WordPress has like a huge amount of trust in the community. And this example just shows that even huge players in the market might not exist forever. Like nothing actually exists forever. No software solution. Like think back in your organization how many times you switched from one service to the other because pricing, organizations going bankrupt, like anything that can happen. And the same thing can happen to your content management solution. But I think apart from talking about the hot drama that is currently ongoing, the message that we want to discuss or get across today is that we think content management is a crucial aspect of your customer experience in general. So it's a very technical topic, and it always has this, I think it's a little bit unattractive for non-technical people to discuss content management because it is a technical thing. It is not like an attractive outcome in itself, so to say, but we think that content management can in fact unlock improving your customer's experience, not just only a little bit. Like this is not something where we're talking about, oh, it can be 10% better, or it's like an optimization that you could do if you have nothing better to do in your organization. But that this is something that can in fact 10x your efforts. Like this is something, if you think about content management in the classical way, and WordPress is a good example for this, then you probably always think in pages. You're only thinking about this one website. You have your marketing website. You put content together for the product page or the About Us page. And then you look at this page and see the text that goes up there, and then you have like a couple of pictures of your team and of your office or whatever, but the format that it is stored in is for this specific web page. And if you're talking about your organization in another place, in a presentation or on a social media network or anything outside of your one page inside of your marketing website, then it's just very likely that you're probably copy pasting that content into this other platform one by one, and you're transforming it along the way because it has to be a little bit shorter or longer, or it needs more pictures or less pictures. But right, you're copy pasting your content. And let's say you're pivoting your company, or you want to stay in this example, you have a lot of new team members, or you change your claim, or you do something that affects all of these places where people can learn something about your organization, then because you copy pasted, you have to go to all of these places. And this is, of course, a scaling problem. Like this, if you have this sort of problem on a daily basis, then you just can't move as fast as you might want to move. And what we're approaching is a more structured way of storing content. Dan, maybe you can give us an intro of the idea where we're going with this. Like, if it's not pages, then what? Like, then how else can it be?
So this is actually a tricky thing, because when we mention the words content management system, most everybody thinks in pages, because it's like the origin of the term is websites. And so everything in this regard is tied to a website, and naturally people start to think in pages, because this is the experience you have. You click on a link and you change the page, and then there's other content. There is a way to think about the content decoupled from the pages though. So especially if you have multiple products or services on a page, then you know that the same content is used in different formats. It happens on a blog too. So you have the blog post on a detailed page where you have the full blog post, but you also have like the teaser or the first couple of sentences and the title being shown on an overview list view. And basically this relationship between like the short form presentation and the long form presentation is what you can take further. So you can start thinking about putting together data sets that take care of saving a blog post or saving a product or saving information on people in your organization. And then you can start putting these content blocks together on pages or on a presentation slide or in a document that you hand over for print. So we try to find a way to decouple the content of one page into a structured system where the data lives on its own and can be mixed and matched with other content blocks for different use cases.
Yeah, and I think I'm so hyped up about this topic right now because we actually just had a discussion with the customer about the potentials of this, and we've been building websites on top of this approach for the last couple of years. And to illustrate what Dan is describing is, you know how big brands actually, like if they change something about their branding in an instant, like overnight, and you have the feeling suddenly McDonald's managed to globally change something about their brand, or Nike or anyone, like huge organizations, and they are somehow able to pull this off in a very short time frame, as opposed to it takes like a couple months or even years to reach all of the places where artifacts of your brand got spread out and to actually update the claim. And then in the meantime, the customer experience is a little bit confusing because they go from one place that is framed this way to another place that is framed another way, which is of course not really optimal for any experience. Then, well, I don't want to say they all have like a central way of storing their content, but either they do this or they throw abnormal amounts of manpower on fixing the problem manually. So I think in a nutshell, this is really a topic for either you copy paste or you have things in a central place and can then automate your processes. And this is, I think, honestly, not even only about consistency and customer experience. When you think about transforming processes inside of your organization for the future, to be in a position to automate stuff or to make information available to more teams or more partners that you're working with, then this approach starts to make sense. Like if you just have this one website and you're sure this is going to be the same, like it's going to be just this for the next years, then that's maybe just a very valid approach. But if you feel you're going to have more than one place that needs this information, and this is not just for marketing websites, like Dan, you spoke about having products or services, and this can actually be about anything that you produce more than once, right? Like if you think in regular databases, then you might have like one table for people and one table for products and another table for this and that, and they all follow like the same sort of template. And what we're proposing is actually sort of this, like you don't think about your website really when you start to collect all of the information about your products. But what you do is you look at the product as one thing, as I don't know what you're selling, shoes. Then they have a bunch of images, they have like a title, they have a price, they have a weight, they have a size, they have a whole bunch of attributes, and all of those go onto this one record about this one product. And then you store all of this information in a gigantic list of products. And let's say now you have an Android app and an iOS app and a website, and you want to promote stuff on LinkedIn or in Google Ads or whatever, and you have different teams doing all of this. Then to have all of this in one place means that all of the teams can pick the information they need from this one product record. So maybe someone just needs an image and a title and someone else needs more. Then they can get this from the same place. And if you update it in one place, then nobody has to copy paste stuff. Right. And I think this is where this becomes really powerful. So maybe we can transition a little bit into different solutions. Like this seems like a very theoretical concept at this point. So we've been using a system called Sanity. That's like a service that is like a hosted service. But there's other solutions too. Like from the top of your mind, Dan, you have a couple that maybe fulfill different aspects.
Yeah, so I think the market is crowded. I think content management is a big topic right now. And so there's Contentful, a big player, there's Storyblog, and there is also open source solutions like Keystone.js or Payload CMS. So there's a lot happening out there where content management is transitioning into something that is more decoupled from the page structure.
Totally. And so this can be, I think we're just saying this because we're not saying stop using WordPress and use this other solution. It's more of that this is really like a fundamental paradigm shift in the way that you think about managing your content internally. And I think you've probably heard from many different sources over the last years that content management is something that affects the scalability of your business. And I think it is always very, very vague. Like it's like how does this affect me where? And so the mental picture of copy pasting versus not copy pasting helps me a lot to talk to people about this topic. And every organization, I think, will have slightly different requirements about how to implement this idea. And so, as we said, there's like software as a service, like cloud providers that you can just use. You can, if you have very high security requirements, for example, then you can absolutely implement this in your own infrastructure behind your firewall. Like you can keep all of your stuff, like this huge pile of data, you can just keep it to yourself. And then make it possible to access this content from the individual places where you want to use it in a very specific and controlled manner. But what we're here to say is that we believe going forward, this way of having your content independently in one place in a format that is also not locked into one system is like going to be a huge advantage in the future. And as I said in the beginning, this is like, I think it's not even optional, to be really honest. Like this is, if you have data in one place that you can make accessible for teams or maybe even for AI tools that you have running that can also help transform content into different presentations, is something that will absolutely unlock your marketing. Then maybe to come to a close, if people are wondering how to get there, like what are the steps that you see to go from where a bunch of business are today to the new approach, and maybe even address like 1.5 concerns about where the data then lives in the future?
Yeah, so I think this is actually a good point because we've been seeing improvements of user experience on a broader level when starting to look at content in this structured manner. previous projects, what we used to do is before we start building a website and layouting a website and starting to think about the page structure, we started to think about user journeys and how people would like to go through the website and what kind of information they require to fulfill their goals. So you usually have a visitor on your website and you want them to reach a certain point, like go to the contact form and click somewhere to contact you or buy something, purchase something. And this user journey requires a certain set of information, like bits and pieces that you want to spread out along the way. And thinking about these content blocks is very easy if you're not locked into a page system. So you don't think page by page, but you think about the kind of information that would be helpful at each step. And this is a first step you can take, even like kind of an exercise to see what purpose does the information on a page actually fulfill. And these decoupled information blocks can then be rearranged for different marketing funnels or different like pages, landing pages throughout the website. And I think this is not only helpful to think about like the new way of managing your content, but it's generally very helpful to think about because it improves the user experience, like the experience people have on your website, and should be like the first and foremost concern for each page of your website, no matter which system you use in the back. So I think this is actually a good way to start thinking about how to manage your content in general.
Very cool. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I had the other episode that's going to come out in a couple of weeks, where I spoke to Rob Phillips from Interview, and he built a platform to gain insights from your users. Like he builds tools to make it easier to understand your target group and to understand what they really need, like what are the challenges that you're facing. And he says, and in a very clear-cut way, that he believes the last 10 years on the internet were sort of an exploration of what's possible. Now we know that we can make about anything. We can make it as complex as we like. And I'm sure you might agree that we overshot it at one or the other point, and software is actually way too complex for users. People stop using one tool and start using another tool. And Rob says he believes that the challenge for the next 10 years in the ginormous plethora of solutions that we have today, the ones that keep their users happy over the long time and listen to them and understand where they need a piece of information, where they need another piece of information, how to actually solve their challenge that they're having, will be the distinguishing factor between you and your organization and players like your competitors in the field. If you can bind all of your unique selling points together in a way that people have easy access to this and understand what you're talking about, and you can get into like a one-on-one relationship with your customer sort of, then this is probably the path to success. Because people are not looking for more features, they are looking for manageable solutions to the challenge that they're facing in their jobs. And so having content at the center of your organization ready to use for any campaign that you're planning, for any activity, is going to be a huge game changer. And if you're interested in this topic, I think especially this month, we're talking a lot about it, about different aspects. We're going to be comparing systems from left and right and are very passionate about talking about this. So if you have any subsequent inquiries or are interested at all, feel free to approach us. And with this, I want to say, Dan, thank you for coming on and to help us to dissect the topic a little bit more. I know you're writing blog posts, so also check those out in the future. Right. Thank you, and see you on the next one. Bye.